The little alien girl and the rain had not stopped since morning. Cold water poured from the skies, turning the refugee district into a muddy river. People hurried through the narrow streets. Heads low, coats tight, but one man walked. Slowly, eyes open, watching everything. His name was Carter, a human ex-soldier turned mechanic. Now wandering the alien zones looking for parts. Work, or maybe something more. He didn't know what. But something always pulled him forward as he stepped past a broken vendor stall. He noticed her, a small alien girl, sitting alone on a crate soaked with water. Her clothes were thin, sticking to her small frame, and her big green eyes stared at nothing. People passed by, ignoring her. Carter paused. Frowning, the girl looked up at him. Slowly, then she whispered, "My mom died today." Carter's breath caught. He crouched down, unsure what to say. Before he could speak, the girl added, "Can I spend the day with you, human?" Her voice was soft but clear. No fear, no tears, just something deeper emptiness. Carter hesitated. Why him? Why not anyone else? He looked around, but no one was paying attention. Some aliens glanced over, then turned away. A few snickered cruelly, like it was a joke. Carter exhaled and nodded. "Okay, but stay close." The girl got off the crate and quietly walked beside him. She didn't take his hand, didn't smile, didn't ask questions, just walked, silent and soaked, as if she had known him forever. They went down a side path, away from the noise of the district. Carter finally asked, "What's your name?" The girl didn't answer. After a moment, she whispered, "Luma." Carter led her to a small food stall he trusted. The owner, an old alien with white scales, raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Carter ordered soup and some fried roots. Luma didn't eat much, just picked at the food, eyes darting to shadows beyond the stall. She looked afraid not of Carter, but of something else, something unseen. Carter tried again. "Luma, where's your home?" She shook her head. "Can't. Go back," she whispered. "They'll be there." "Who?" he asked. She didn't answer, just looked at him with eyes far older than her face. The old stall owner leaned over and muttered, "That mark on her hand, be careful, human." Carter looked and saw a faint red burn mark on Luma's left hand, like a small circle with lines through it. He asked the owner, "What does it mean?" The alien shook his head. "It's not for me to say." Carter paid and left, walking Luma back to his small rental room near the edge of the zone. It wasn't much, just a bed, a heater, a couch, and a roof that didn't leak. Luma walked in slowly, dripping water onto the metal floor. She looked around like it was a palace. "You can dry off and rest," Carter said. Handing her a towel, she nodded and sat quietly on the couch. Carter gave her a blanket and made sure the heater was on. That night, Carter tried to rest in the chair, but he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about her. Who was she? Why was she alone? And what was that mark? In the middle of the night, he heard soft crying. He got up and saw Luma curled tightly under the blanket. Shaking, she was whispering something in her sleep, over and over. "Mom, don't go. They're here. Run." Carter sat beside her, unsure what to do. Then, gently, he put a hand on her shoulder. She stopped shaking, but didn't wake up. Just curled into the warmth of his hand. The rain continued outside. The city never slept, but in that tiny room, something quiet began. A bond, maybe? Or just a promise not yet spoken. Carter didn't know who had taken her mother. He didn't know what danger was chasing Luma. But he knew one thing. She had asked to spend the day with him, and somehow, he felt she would never leave again, not by choice, not without a fight. The next morning, Carter woke up to the sound of silence. For a second, he thought the girl had left. He looked around the small room. Then he saw Herlemus sitting on the floor in the corner, staring at the door. Her arms were wrapped around her knees. and she hadn't moved at all since last night. He got up slowly, stretched, and said softly, "You hungry?" Luma didn't answer. Her eyes were open, but distant, like she was still seeing something from a nightmare. Carter walked to the small kitchen unit and made some instant porridge. He placed it on the table. Still, she didn't move. He crouched in front of her. "It's safe here, kid," finally. She turned her head slowly and nodded once, then, without a word, she walked to the table and began eating. But Carter noticed something strange. She ate slowly, almost robotically, every few bites. She stopped and glanced at the window. Not outside, but at the corners, like she expected something to crawl in. After breakfast, Carter gave her a dry coat, far too big for her, and said, "We're going out." He didn't want to stay in the room all day, and he needed answers. Luma didn't protest. She just followed, silent, her tiny hand holding the edge of his coat like it was a lifeline. They walked through the market again. Some of the vendors looked at Carter and whispered. He could feel their eyes on him. Some looked surprised, others nervous. One older alien lady even made a symbol with her hands and turned away quickly. Carter led Luma to a small tech shop he used to trade with. The owner, a grumpy half-metal alien named Brosh, squinted at him. "You bring her here?" Brosh hissed. In a low voice. "What do you mean?" Carter asked. Brosh pointed at Luma's hand. "She's marked human. You don't know?" "I don't care," Carter said firmly. "She's a kid." Brosh shook his head. "She's a target." Carter left quickly, heart pounding. He didn't like what he was hearing. He looked down at Luma, walking silently, never asking questions. Always alert. Then she suddenly tugged on his coat. "We can't stay here," she whispered. "Why not?" Carter asked. "They're watching," she said, not looking up. "Who?" "The ones that took my mom." Carter crouched down, looked her in the eyes. "You said they took her?" "How?" Luma hesitated. Her lip trembled. "They came at night, out of the shadows," she said slowly. "They didn't break the door. They didn't shout. They just appeared." She touched her chest. She screamed, and then she stopped. Carter stared at her, confused and angry. Why didn't anyone stop them? "They don't stop them," Luma said, "because no one sees them, except the ones they take." That night, back at the room, Carter checked her mark again. It glowed faintly under the skin, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. It wasn't a tattoo. It wasn't natural. It was something else. Luma was quiet all evening. She didn't cry, but she kept watching the corners of the room. Even when Carter closed all windows and locked the door, she didn't relax. She sat near the heater with a blanket over her shoulders. Then, without looking at him, she said, "They don't want me yet." Carter blinked. "What?" "They're waiting," she said, her voice flat. "They're following me because I'm holding something." "What are you holding?" She looked at him for a long time, then whispered, "My mom's soul." Carter stood frozen. "Luma, that's just... You're just a kid." But deep down, he felt it. This wasn't just grief talking. This wasn't just trauma. There was something else here. That night, Carter stayed awake, sitting in the chair near the door. He kept his old plasma pistol under his hand. He hadn't used it in years, but the weight was familiar. Outside, the rain kept falling. Louder now, as if the sky was warning them. In the middle of the night, Carter heard soft movement. Luma was standing by the window, eyes closed, whispering. He got up and walked slowly toward her. She was repeating something over and over. "Don't come closer. He's still with me. She's not ready." Carter gently touched her shoulder. She opened her eyes suddenly and stared at him. "I saw one," she said, "outside the window, but it left." "Why?" Carter asked. "Because I'm not alone anymore," she said softly. "They fear that." Carter swallowed hard. This wasn't just a lost child anymore. This was something much bigger. And somehow, He was now part of it. Carter couldn't sleep. He kept hearing Luma's soft whispers in his head. Words like "they see pain" and "my mom's soul" repeated again and again. Something wasn't right, and it wasn't just the rain. Something deeper, darker, had entered his life when that girl looked up and said, "Can I spend the day with you?" He waited until the morning sun tried to shine through the gray clouds. Luma was still sleeping, curled tightly under the blanket, her small hands gripping the edge like it was her only safety. Carter stood over her for a moment, unsure what to do then. As he turned away, he noticed something. Her shirt had lifted slightly, revealing her back, and on her back, just below the neck, was a glowing mark. It wasn't a burn, not exactly. It looked more like a living tattoo lines that moved ever so slightly. Circling an eye-like shape in the center, it pulsed once, softly, like it was breathing. Carter stepped back in shock. He had never seen anything like it, even during his time in the military. Dealing with alien tech and biology, he had seen nothing that lived under the skin like this. Luma stirred and sat up slowly. She saw him staring and pulled her shirt down quickly, her eyes wide. "I told you not to look," she whispered. "What is that?" Carter asked, trying to stay calm. She looked down, voice shaking. "It's the seal. The thing they left when they took her." "Who are they?" he asked again. She shook her head. "They have no name. They come for souls, not bodies. My mom was strong. She tried to fight them. She screamed until the mark burned into me." Carter felt his skin go cold. "How did it get on you?" "She pushed me," Luma whispered, "right before they took her. She placed her hand on my back and said, 'Don't forget me,' and then the light came." Carter sat down, not knowing what to believe anymore. He had seen war, cruelty, alien weapons that melted steel, but this was something else, something that felt older than anything he'd known. Luma came closer and sat next to him. "They want it back," she said. "That's why they follow me. They don't care about me. They just want what my mother left inside me." Carter ran a hand over his face. "Why me, Luma?" he asked quietly. "Why did you come to me that day?" She looked up at him and said, "Because you had light." He blinked, confused. "Most people don't." She added, "But you do." He didn't know what to say. How do you respond to something like that? She reached into her small bag and pulled out a smooth, round stone, glowing faintly blue. This belonged to her. She said, "It helps me hide." Carter took the stone gently. It felt warm and strangely heavy. Inside, he saw something flickers of light, like a memory frozen in glass. Then he heard a voice not out loud, but inside his mind, a woman's voice, whispering one word: "Protect." He dropped the stone and stepped back. Luma caught it quickly and held it to her chest. "You heard her," she said, her voice full of quiet knowing. Carter nodded slowly. "I don't know what's happening," he admitted, "but I'm not leaving you alone." That evening, they didn't leave the room. Carter locked every door, covered the windows, and checked his pistol again. Luma sat near the heater, holding the stone. The mark on her back glowed every few minutes, like it was watching the room. Suddenly Luma stood up and said, "They're closer now." Carter moved to the window and looked out. Across the street, standing still in the shadows, was a tall figure in a dark cloak. Its face was covered, but Carter felt its eyes burning through the wall. Luma walked to his side and whispered, "That's not the worst one." The figure turned and vanished into the fog. No sound, no footsteps, just gone. Carter exhaled sharply. They were being hunted, and the walls weren't going to keep them safe forever. That night, Carter dreamed of burning stars and voices calling his name. He woke up sweating, the room cold and quiet. Luma was awake too, sitting cross-legged, watching him with calm eyes. "They'll come soon," she said. "We need to leave." "Where?" Carter asked. "To where it all started. she replied. "To the place where my mom first saw them. Only there can we break the seal." Carter nodded slowly. He didn't know where this was going, but somehow he knew one thing. This wasn't just about her mother. This was about something far greater. And he had already stepped too deep to turn back. The city looked different now, not because of the rain or the broken lights, but because Carter knew someone was watching. The shadow he saw last night hadn't returned. But that didn't mean they were safe. Luma's quiet warning echoed in his ears. "They're closer now." Carter packed quickly that morning. He didn't have much, just a pistol, a small satchel of credits, and an old map of the outer regions. Luma helped silently, folding a blanket and placing her mother's glowing stone inside a cloth pouch. She didn't ask questions. She already knew they were leaving. They left before the sun rose, slipping through the back alleys of the refugee district. The streets were almost empty, but Carter's senses were sharp. Every flicker of movement, every flickering light made him glance over his shoulder. Luma walked behind him, her small feet barely making a sound on the wet pavement as they reached the edge of the district. Carter heard it, a soft, metallic scraping sound. He turned and saw them. 3 figures in black cloaks, tall and thin, moving without sound. Their faces were smooth, featureless, like masks made of fog. Luma froze. Eyes wide with fear, they followed. She whispered. Carter grabbed her hand and ran. They dashed into an old service tunnel. Dodging broken crates and rusted pipes, Carter's boots splashed through puddles, the cold water soaking his pants. Behind them, no footsteps, only silence. But Carter knew they were coming. These things didn't run, they just moved. Like smoke, like hunger. Luma pointed to an old exit hatch. "In here," she said. Carter kicked it open and shoved her through. They climbed a narrow stairwell and emerged in an abandoned tram station above the city. Dust filled the air, and old posters hung from the walls, torn and forgotten. "We need to get off-world," Carter said, catching his breath. "I know someone who can help." They crossed the station and entered a small junkyard behind it. There, covered in tarps and wires, sat an old freighter ship, rusted and quiet. Carter tapped on the side. An alien with red eyes and cybernetic arms stepped out, holding a wrench. "Carter," he growled. "What the void are you doing here?" "I need a ride, Kaz," Carter said. "Off this rock." Kaz looked at Luma and narrowed his eyes. "No kids," he said. "She's marked." Carter stepped closer. "She's under my protection," Kaz grunted, then looked around. "Fine, but we leave now." They boarded the ship, and Kaz started the engines. The ship groaned, sputtered, and lifted off the ground as they rose into the sky. Carter looked out the window, and his heart stopped. On a nearby rooftop stood one of the Soul Stealers, still, unmoving, staring up at them. Its cloak fluttered in the wind, but its face smooth and blank never turned away. Luma gripped Carter's hand tightly. "They won't stop now," she whispered. "They know I'm leaving." The freighter broke through the clouds and entered the upper atmosphere. Carter leaned back in the seat, trying to calm his heartbeat. Luma sat beside him, her eyes never leaving the stars. "Where are we going?" he asked. "To the place where my mom hid." She said, "It's far, quiet." And old Kaz entered the cockpit and handed Carter a data chip. "That'll get you near the old temple zone. But I'm not going further." "What temple?" Carter asked. "A ruin in the northern mountains," Kaz replied. "Abandoned. Haunted, they say." "Now I know why." Carter looked at the chip, then at Luma. "You sure about this?" She nodded slowly. "It's the only place left." The freighter landed in a remote valley surrounded by icy cliffs. Carter and Luma stepped out into the cold wind. Kaz stayed on the ship, ready to leave. "Good luck," he muttered. "You'll need it." They walked toward the old stone path leading into the mountains. Luma moved with purpose. She wasn't scared now, She was leading. Carter followed, keeping his hand near his weapon, eyes scanning the frozen woods as the sun began to set. Shadows stretched long across the snow, then from the trees. Carter heard it, the same soft metallic scraping. He spun around, pistol raised. Shapes moved between the trees, fast and silent. They found us. Luma whispered. Carter grabbed her and ran again. The path led to a tall stone archway, half broken, covered in vines. They passed through it just as the shadows closed in behind them. Inside the arch, the air changed. Warmth returned, and the wind vanished. Luma stopped and turned, holding the glowing stone high. The Soul Stealers reached the entrance and stopped. They couldn't enter. "This place is protected," Luma said. "My mother brought me here once, a long time ago," she told me. "If they ever come for you, run." To the temple. Carter looked around at the strange symbols on the stone walls. He didn't understand them, but he felt something peace, but also warning. They had escaped, for now. Oh. But the real battle hadn't even begun. Carter had seen many things in his life. He had fought in alien wars, walked through shattered cities, and stared down beasts with teeth longer than his arm. But nothing had ever felt like this place. The moment he and Luma stepped through the ancient archway, the air changed, the cold winds stopped, the snow melted under their feet, and the sky above turned golden. Even though it was night outside the mountain, Luma walked ahead. Holding the glowing stone in both hands, it pulsed softly, as if it remembered the path. Carter followed, eyes wide, hand on his pistol, heart pounding. Strange symbols covered the stone walls around them, some glowing, some asleep. He didn't recognize the language. But it didn't matter. He could feel it. This place was older than Earth's history, older than war, older than fear. They reached a wide courtyard filled with broken statues and moss-covered steps. In the center stood a tall stone spire with carvings wrapped around it like a spiral staircase. Luma stopped and stared at it silently. "This is where she gave birth to the light," she whispered. Carter blinked. "Who?" "My mom," Luma said. "Before I was born, she came here to hide from them. She called this place the Heartstone." Carter looked around, uneasy. There were no creatures, no sounds, just silence. Even birds didn't sing here. It wasn't peace. It was something deeper, heavier, like the air was waiting. Luma walked to the center of the courtyard and knelt. She placed the stone on the ground, and the moment it touched the earth, the carvings on the spire lit up. Lines of soft gold ran up the tower like veins, glowing brighter with each second. The stone pulsed once, twice, then went still. From the silence came a whisper. Carter's hand shot to his weapon, but Luma didn't move. Instead, she closed her eyes and whispered back. The ground trembled slightly, like something beneath them had stirred suddenly. A shape formed in the air above the stone, a ghostly figure, a tall woman with the same green eyes as Luma. She was dressed in flowing robes made of starlight, her face calm, her voice soft. "Luma," she said, "you've made it." Luma's eyes filled with tears. "Mom," she whispered. Carter stepped back, unsure if he was dreaming. The ghost looked at him. "You're the one she chose," the voice said. Carter blinked. "Me." "She saw the light in you," the ghost replied. "The strength to protect what others would leave behind." Luma reached toward the ghost, but her hand passed through it. "She's not fully here." Carter said softly. "No." The ghost replied, "I'm only memory now. I gave what was left of my soul to protect her." The ground trembled again from beyond the stone gate. Carter heard the scraping sound, metal on stone. "They've returned," he said. The ghost turned. "To Luma, they cannot enter this place, but the seal will not last forever. You must finish what I started." "What do I do?" Luma asked. The ghost raised her glowing hand and touched Luma's forehead. A bright light spread across her skin. The mark on her back glowed bright gold. no longer red, you carry what they desire. The ghost said, but it is not accursed. Is power. The stone cracked slightly under Luma's feet, and a soft hum filled the air. Carter looked around, nervous. What's happening? He asked. The Heartstone awakens, the ghost replied. If she accepts the gift, it will protect her, but at what cost? Carter asked. The ghost looked at him with sad eyes. She will never be the same. She will be more. Outside the temple, the soul stealers gathered again. Carter saw them through the cracks in the gate, tall, shadowed, faceless, but now they didn't just wait. They circled the temple, whispering in voices like broken glass. Luma stood tall now, the light in her eyes burning like fire. They want to enter, she said. They want to take what's mine. Carter pulled his pistol, even though it felt useless against such creatures. I'll stand with you, he said. The ghost of her mother smiled once more. She's ready, she whispered. Then her form faded into the air like dust in sunlight. The courtyard was quiet again, but not still. The spire glowed bright, and the ground beneath them hummed like a living thing. Luma turned to Carter and said, we have one chance, if they break through. I must face them alone. Carter shook his head. Not alone, he said. You asked to spend the day with me. I haven't left your side, Luma. Smiled slightly for the first time since they met. Her smile felt real. They'll try to tear it from me, she said. My mother's light. Carter stepped forward, raising his weapon. Let them try. The temple lights burned bright, and the shadows beyond the gate screamed. The final battle was near, and this time, Carter wasn't running. The wind outside the temple howled like a beast in pain. The soul stealers had surrounded the ancient ruins, though they couldn't step past the sacred barrier yet. The pressure in the air had changed. The golden light that protected the courtyard was flickering now, fading with each whisper from the shadows. Carter stood at the edge of the gate. Eyes fixed on the darkness, he held his pistol tight, though he knew bullets wouldn't be enough. Beside him, Luma stood tall, her small hands glowing with the light her mother had left inside her. She wasn't afraid, not anymore, but Carter was, not for himself, for her. They're testing the boundary, Luma said softly. They'll find a crack soon. How long do we have? Carter asked. Maybe minutes, she replied. Maybe less. The carvings on the stone walls around them pulsed slower than before. The Heartstone behind them hummed like it was warning them, or maybe preparing something. Luma looked at Carter and said, this is where she made her stand. My mother, she held the line for me. Carter nodded. Then we'll hold it for her. Suddenly, the air around the gate twisted. One of the soul stealers moved forward, stepping halfway through the golden light. It screamed not loud, but in a way that made the bones tremble. Its form shook, shadows peeling off like smoke, but it didn't stop. Carter raised his pistol and fired. The bolt hit the creature's chest, but passed through it like mist. Still, the thing stumbled back, hissing as if wounded. Another came forward, then another. The barrier sparked. Thin cracks of light running across its edges. They're weakening it together, Luma said. Carter stepped back. What do we do? I need to reach the heart, she said, completely. Not just with the stone, but with everything I have. Carter hesitated. What does that mean? Luma looked up at him, eyes glowing. It means giving all of her back. All of her soul. She lives in me now, but to awaken the full power of the temple, I must let her go. Carter clenched his jaw. You'll survive, right? Luma didn't answer. Instead, she walked toward the spire, holding the stone tightly. The ground began to shake, dust falling from the temple ceiling. Carter turned and faced the gate, heart pounding. The soul stealers were inside now, half there. Bodies moving through the flickering light, they were like nightmares given form. No eyes, no mouths, only masks of endless gray. They whispered in unison, Voices like dead winds, give. The light. No, Carter said. He took a step forward, standing between them and the girl. You can't have her. You can't take her like you took her mother. One of the creatures raised its arm, black claws stretching out like blades. It lunged. Carter fired again. The shots tore through mist and shadow, but something pushed the creature back. Then it stopped. All of them did. They turned toward the spire. Their whispers rose in volume sharper. Now, more desperate. Carter spun around. Luma had climbed the steps of the spire, the stone held high above her head. Light poured from her chest, her back, her hands. The mark was burning like a sun. She cried out, but her voice wasn't Juanette was too. Her own and her mother's, speaking in perfect harmony by the bond of blood, by the breath of memory. I return the soul to the stars. Let the darkness break. The light exploded outward. Carter was thrown back, landing hard on the courtyard stones. He shielded his eyes as the golden flame consumed everything. The soul stealers screamed, their forms unraveled, torn apart by the ancient power. The shadows that clung to them were shredded. One by one, they vanished, not killed, erased. Their hunger, their evil, gone from the world. When the light faded, silence returned. Carter sat up slowly, coughing. The temple was cracked and broken. The spire dark and silent. He looked for Luma, heart pounding. She was lying at the base of the spire. Still, too still. No. Carter whispered, running to her side. He dropped to his knees and lifted her gently. Luma, come on, kid. Wake up. Her eyes were closed, her skin pale, the glow was gone. Only the small stone in her hand remained warm. Carter held her close. He had promised to protect her. He had promised she wouldn't be alone. Now she was slipping away in his arms, just like her mother. Then a single breath, soft and shallow. Her fingers twitched, her eyes opened slowly. Not glowing, just green, tired and full of life. You stayed, she whispered. Carter laughed, tears in his eyes. Of course I did, he said. I told you to stay close, she smiled. I heard her, she said. She said, thank you. Carter hugged her tightly. The heartstone was dark now. Its work done, but the girl was alive. The soul was free, and the war, for now, was over. Morning came slowly to the mountains. Soft light filtered through the cracks in the temple's stone ceiling. Snow had returned outside, but inside, the ruins. It was quiet and calm. Carter sat beside Luma as she slept, her head resting on his lap. The fire had gone out, but the warmth remained, not from flames, but from peace. The heartstone stood silent now, no longer glowing. Its work was done. The temple felt empty, but not sad. More like a final breath had been released into the world, like a soul had returned home. Luma stirred, blinking her tired eyes. Her voice was soft. Is it over? Carter nodded slowly, brushing her hair back gently. You did it, he said. They're gone. She sat up slowly, touching her chest where the mark used to be. It was gone now. Her skin was clear, smooth. Like the darkness had never touched her. But inside, she remembered everything. I thought I wouldn't wake up, she whispered. You almost didn't, Carter said. But I would have waited, as long as it took. Luma smiled weakly. Thank you, she said. For not letting go. He gave her a crooked smile. You asked to spend the day with me. I didn't say when it would end. They stayed in the temple until the sun rose higher. Then they walked out through the broken arch. Snow crunched under their feet as they stepped back into the cold world. But this time, they didn't feel cold. Kaz was waiting at the ship, arms crossed, looking annoyed. I was about to leave, he grumbled. You always say that, Carter replied. Kaz looked at Luma, eyes narrowing. You alive, kid? She nodded. Then hurry up, he said. Turning away, I'm not running a taxi. They boarded the freighter, and soon the ship lifted off. The mountain shrank behind them. And with it, the memories of shadows, but something new had taken their place. Hope. Luma sat by the window, watching the clouds. Where will we go now? She asked. Carter leaned back in the seat, arms crossed. Well, I've got an old workshop on the outer rim, he said. Quiet, dusty, full of broken junk. Luma tilted her head. That sounds boring, Carter laughed. Exactly. They landed 2 days later, far away from war, cities, and ancient ruins. The small colony where Carter lived was simple. No towers, no crowds, just open land and sky. He introduced her to a grumpy robot that handled repairs, a 3-legged dog named Rusty, and a garden that barely grew anything. This is home. Luma asked. Yeah, Carter said. It's ugly, she added. Yeah, he repeated with a grin. But within a week, the garden began to grow faster than ever. Flowers bloomed, even in the dusty soil. The robot started whistling, though no one had ever programmed it to. And Carter, for the first time in years, slept through the night. Luma helped in the workshop. Fixing wires and organizing tools, she made a small room for herself in the back, filled with drawings of stars and memories. Sometimes she sat under the tree by the hill and spoke softly to the wind. Carter never asked what she said. He didn't need to. He knew. One evening, they sat outside watching the sunset. Luma leaned against his shoulder. Do you ever miss the old life? She asked. Carter thought for a moment. Sometimes, he said, but I don't miss being alone. She nodded. I don't feel alone anymore. He smiled. Good. The stars came out slowly, one by one. Carter pointed to a bright one. Near the edge of the sky, she told me once, he said, that souls return to the stars. Maybe your mom's up there. Luma looked up, eyes wide. She's watching. I think so, Carter said, and I think she's proud. They sat in silence for a while, just watching the night. No fear, no voices in the dark. Only peace. Luma turned to him and whispered, Can I stay? Carter looked at her and nodded. You asked to spend the day with me, he said. Stay as long as you want. Even forever. She smiled, and for the first time since she lost everything, her smile reached her eyes.